second? Mr. Vice Chair, thank you very much. And of course, I am in support of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I want to thank you, Chair Quirk, and your committee staff for all of their work on this bill over the past few weeks. AB 2071 would prohibit the inclusion of PFAS chemicals in personal care products. So those are things like lipstick and face cream and other things that we don't want to have this in. The class of chemicals known as, I can't pronounce it, the PFAS are a large family of chemicals known for their long-lasting water and oil resistant and temperature-retaining properties. However, these products shed PFAS chemicals over time and expose people to the chemicals. PFAS chemicals have been shown to have adverse impacts on human health, including on children. And as someone whose 8-year-old is getting into her makeup pretty much on a daily basis, it is a concern to me personally. Recent testing shows that manufacturers intentionally add PFAS to personal care products such as lipstick, mascara, and shaving cream, so you men are not immune. Since the PFAS chemicals are not essential for these products to be used and alternative products without PFASs are available, people are exposed to these chemicals for little reason. A restriction on the sale of personal care products containing PFAS is really the only way to ensure that every Californian has access to products that do not present a health risk to their families just by their mere presence in their home. And I want to say this because I think it's important that I did not introduce this bill until I first reached out to industry and asked them if they would be willing to engage in the effort to ban PFAS in personal care products. And they all chose to work with us on this bill on 2771, and I want to thank them for that. And I will continue to meet and work with them regarding any concerns that they have on how we amend this bill to allow for some unintentional contamination of products. This is a tough issue because PFAS appear in many products that don't have PFAS on the ingredient label. So even if you were trying to screen them out in your home, it will be very, very hard to, and they might even have very high levels of PFAS. And I also want to say that as someone who was on a water board for almost 8 years, PFAS are also a real emerging contaminant of concern because they leach off of these products when you wash your face and go into the water supply. And right now, the water agencies don't know how to get it out of the water. And their customers, the water customers, are saying, well, I don't want to be drinking this stuff. And really, we haven't been able to get a handle on it. Now, PFAS can have a functional use at very low levels in cosmetics. For example, they can be intentionally added to an ingredient into a cosmetic, and then the PFAS might only show up as a very trace amount in the overall product. That said, I am willing to work with the committee and with manufacturers to identify a safe but reasonable way to account for this unintentional cross-contamination of PFAS in products. Testifying today in support of AB 2771 is Susan Little with the Environmental Working Group and Dr. Lydia Jall with the Green Science Policy Institute. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Assembly Member, for your presentation and for authoring this bill. My name is Susan Little. I'm with the Environmental Working Group, a co-sponsor of AB 2771. Breast Cancer Prevention Partners and CalPERG are also co-sponsors of this bill. Concerns are mounting throughout the world about the toxicity and environmental persistence of PFAS chemicals. The European Union has recently announced that it plans to phase out all non-essential uses of PFAS. And California, as you know, because you've seen these bills, has moved forward to prohibit the entire class of PFAS from multiple products, and our Department of Toxic Substance Control has also taken action on the entire class of PFAS in other products like carpets. So how about PFAS in the products that we apply to our bodies every day? Research indicates that many cosmetics contain PFAS, even when the PFAS is not listed on the product's label. Of course, women and girls are the primary users of cosmetics. Yeah, guys, you guys use it too. But women and girls, we know, even teenage girls can use as many as a dozen products every morning when they're getting ready to go to school, to get out the door. So PFAS are linked to a range of health effects, including the disruption of hormones and hormone responses. So women and girls' use of cosmetics with PFAS could significantly affect their health and the health of their children. Please protect women and children from this daily and unnecessary exposure to PFAS and support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Phone moderator, do you have Dr. Lydia Jahal with the Green Science Policy Institute on the phone line? So we look up into
the line is open. Thank you. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Dr. Lydia Yall. I have a PhD in chemistry, and I currently work with the Green Science Policy Institute. We are a group of scientists that work towards the reduction of health-harming chemicals in everyday consumer products, and we support AB 2771. Last June, my institute co-authored a peer-reviewed paper with the University of Notre Dame that measured PFAS in chemicals. Our research showed high levels of fluorine, which is a marker for PFAS, in more than half of 231 cosmetic products. When we tested some of these products for just a small subset of individual PFAS chemicals, every single product contained at least 4 different PFAS, all of which are associated with a wide array of health harms, including cancer, immune suppression, elevated cholesterol, and endocrine disruption. All cosmetics tested from the United States contained a PFAS chemical called 6,2-fluorotellumer alcohol, which was actually phased out by the FDA in 2020 due to concerns about the persistence of this PFAS chemical in our bodies. The products we tested that were most likely to contain PFAS were waterproof mascaras, colored lip products, and foundations, and these are all the most likely to result in health harm because of their usage. For example, mascara is applied to the eye area where it can enter the body through tear ducts. People who use lipstick inadvertently consume pounds of it throughout their life, and foundation is applied across the entire face. It is extremely concerning that PFAS are found in products that have such a high potential for human exposure, especially since the concentrations commonly found in cosmetics often exceed safe drinking water levels. PFAS usage in personal care products is not only unnecessary, but actively harms people over a lifetime of usage. PFAS are also found in other personal care products used by people who don't wear makeup, such as shampoo or moisturizer. Our study also discovered that most of the detected PFAS were not even present as ingredients on the product labels. In fact, only 3% of products with confirmed PFAS had PFAS included on the ingredients list. One reason for this is that some PFAS can come from inadvertent contamination during production, and this cross-contamination is caused by the wide and unnecessary use of PFAS that bills such as this one would stop. Other PFAS are added to makeup intentionally but are often not labeled, which means that health-conscious consumers in our country and in California cannot choose to protect themselves, which is another reason why such legislation is needed. In the months following our research, even mainstream makeup companies like Kylie Cosmetics, Sephora, and Ulta pledged that their new clean beauty products would not contain any PFAS. And my institute is working with several cosmetics brands to help them remove PFAS from their supply chains as quickly as possible. And our website listing PFAS-free products has thousands of visits every month. This all shows that what the people want is clear, to go about their lives without having to worry that the products they use are safe, especially those that are in contact with their skin every day. The science is also clear. PFAS are harmful and should not be used in personal care products. While there are many PFAS with different structures and different uses, no PFAS studied in detail by scientists has been shown to lack harm. The chemical structure of strong carbon to fluorine bonds determines function, but it also determines health and environmental harm, which is why banning the entire class of PFAS is absolutely necessary. To protect the people of California, my fellow scientists and I support AB 2771 for its potential to greatly protect the health of our citizens and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask if there's anyone in the hearing room in support of AB 2771.
Kayla Robinson on behalf of Breast Cancer Prevention Partners in support, and also registering support for Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Malia Libby with Environment California in support of the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anyone in the room in opposition to this bill?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Mandy Lee on behalf of the Personal Care Products Council. Today I am joined by Dr. Jay Ansel, who is PCPC's Vice President of Cosmetic Programs. He is available to answer any technical questions that the committee may have. We are unfortunately in an opposed unless amended position. We appreciate conversations with the author's office. However, we are still remain opposed unless amended to 2771. In concept, we support the phase out of PFAS in cosmetics and personal care products. However, our biggest concern with this bill is the lack of nuance around what it is exactly that we're banning. This bill, as drafted, bans all PFAS, which, as defined, captures anything that has fully fluorinated carbon atoms. This would capture other fluorides like TFA, which are already present in the water supply, soils, clays, etc. To be clear, we will not intentionally add PFAS into our products. However, if companies are using minerals and water, there may still be technically unavoidable trace levels in the water and therefore get into the product. This does two things. It makes us liable for ingredients that we are not intentionally adding into our products, but are rather ubiquitous in the environment. And number two, it could prohibit manufacturers from using water or other natural minerals as a cosmetic ingredient. And just so the committee is aware, water is the single most used ingredient in cosmetics. Cosmetics and personal care product companies remain committed to advancing innovative product technologies as addressed above. And just as a reminder, in 2020, PCPC and a wide group of stakeholders jointly supported a phase out of certain PFAS in AB 2762, which moved out of this body. This legislation aligned California law with the EU, Annex 2 for cosmetics, and provided consistency and a predictable regulatory framework. We are asking for the same in this bill. The amendments that we would like to see are largely consistent with what we negotiated in AB 2762. Number one, it's a consistent definition of ingredient. Number two, as mentioned earlier, intentionally added is absolutely critical. Number three, language around technically unavoidable trace contaminants must be included as guardrails in the bill. Number four, we'd also like to see an international definition of PFAS because our members operate globally and know those international definitions and recognize them and know how to comply with them. Number four is a sell-through period so that retailers aren't burdened with having to dispose of these materials upon the effective date of this bill, which could create an environmental burden because those products have to be disposed of as hazardous waste. And then finally, a delayed implementation date that aligns with AB 2762, once again passed by this body, which is January 1, 2025. We look forward to continued discussions with the author and the sponsors, and thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. And I will call on Dr. Jay Ansel after we get through with our witnesses that are in the room. So go ahead and come forward and opposition.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nicole Quinones on behalf of the Household and Commercial Products Association, whose members include businesses across the aerosol industry supply chain, as well as the Fragrance Creators Association, which is the lead fragrance trade association with membership comprising of businesses across the fragrance supply chain. In addition to the concerns and amendments laid out by Mandy Lee, I would also like to add that the broad definition of PFAS in this bill would remove HFOs, which are used as aerosol propellants, from the cosmetic market. HFOs have emerged as a next-generation aerosol propellant that the U.S. EPA has deemed acceptable as it relates to human health and the environment. HFOs have a very low global warming potential and reduced ground-level ozone formation, giving them an important role in reaching California's climate and environmental goals. For example, the HFO 1234ZE aerosol propellant is vital for manufacturers to have available for compliance with upcoming lower VOC limits established by CARB. In contrast to PFAS, HFOs are not persistent or bioaccumulative. Further, the U.S. EPA's working definition for their PFAS reporting rule, established under the Biden administration, does not include HFOs, and the EPA's master list of 9,000 PFAS substances that was referenced in the analysis does not include the HFO 1234ZE. We respectfully request an amendment to allow the use of HFOs given their role in achieving California's overall climate ambitions and providing safe products to consumers. We look forward to continuing to work with the author and sponsors in hopes of addressing these concerns, but today we are opposed unless amended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Phone moderator, do we have Dr. Jay Ansel with the PCPC on the phone line?
Yes, and the line is open.
Witnesses, are they giving the opposition?
What?
He's just there for questions, to answer questions.
Okay. Do you have anyone else in support or opposition in the room? Okay, we'll open it up to the phone lines for opposition or support. Operator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to speak in support or opposition of AB 2771, you may press 1 and then 0 at this time. Once again, if you wish to speak in support or opposition of AB 2771, you may press 1 and then 0. Line 84, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members. Jessica Gauger with the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, representing around 130 public wastewater treatment agencies in support of AB 2771.
Line 87, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Jennifer Williams with East Bay Municipal Utility District in support.
Line 82, your line is open. Please go ahead.
This is Santiago with California Environmental Voters in support of this bill.
Line 110, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California in support. Thank you.
Line 111, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Emily Rogers, Zero Toxics Advocate with U.S. PIRG. We support AB 2771. Thank you.
Line 80, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning, this is Jen Engstrom with CalPIRG in strong support, also actively support for the NRDC Natural Resources Defense Council. Thank you.
Line 112, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Jordan Wells on behalf of the National Stewardship Action Council in strong support. Thank you.
Line 113, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Priscilla Quiros on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council in support. Thank you.
Line 114, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, members. Adam Regley on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce with an opposed unless amended position. Thank you.
Line 109, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Daniel Gutierrez on behalf of the Consumer Federation of California in support.
Line 105, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Andrea Ventura with Clean Water Action in support.
Line 72, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Hardy Kern, Director of Government Relations for the American Bird Conservancy in strong support.
Line 108, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Tim Shestik with the American Chemistry Council in an opposed unless amended position. Thank you.
Line 101, your line is open. Please go ahead. Line 101, you may be on mute. Please go ahead. We have no further comments in the queue for AB 2771.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of committee members of the author? Seeing none, I do have a motion and, oh, okay. Sorry, Rebecca.
Well, Ms. Friedman, I want to start by saying thanks for bringing the bill. I think, it sounds like everybody, including the opposition, or those that we heard from today, agree that more PFAS could be removed from the list that we passed under Mr. Marisucci's bill. I don't remember how many years ago that was. But I guess I'm just curious why this bill isn't sort of using the same framework and just adding those PFAS to Mr. Marisucci's framework that he worked for 2 years on. I think we got to a really good place.
Well, because there's a whole range of these products, and what sometimes happens is that they'll change a little bit of the formulation, but essentially you're still dealing with a PFAS. So it's better to, when it comes to large classes of chemicals like this, to address them as a class, because it doesn't take much for them to tweak it, and all of a sudden it's not on the list, and you have to go through this whole long process again. But that's why it hasn't worked to do it sort of one by one.
So couldn't we add the whole class of PFAS to the framework created by the, whatever the number was in Mr. Marisucci's bill, 2776?
I don't know enough about that bill to know how much of it is aligned. But that's essentially what we're doing, is we're trying to add the class of chemicals, because right now, even after that bill, there's still way too much of this in the products, and it's still getting into the water. So we feel that we need to have additional legislation to really firm all that up.
And that I totally understand, and as I said when I began, I support. I guess, part of what I think this committee worked really hard on in that process, and I don't know if you want to speak to this, was this piece about, that Ms. Lee commented on about
the unintentionally added, the parts that are coming from, say, water or other ingredients. And I think it's critical that we, make sure that we're doing that, which I think Mr. Marisucci did a good job of making sure was done in the end of his bill, but it sounds like we're now back to square one. And I'm just feeling like, why are we renegotiating what's already been negotiated?
Yeah. I don't know, we're back to square one. I feel like we're building on the excellent work that he did is really what's happening.
So I guess, okay, so I guess I just want to hear from both of you. I mean, are you committed to getting to basically where we got to in 2776, which was ensuring that those PFAS that are not intentionally added, that are just in the environment, that end up in these products are not part of what we're focused on? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
So we are working with the cosmetic industry to make sure that this is intentionally added.
Okay.
We don't want to, we also want to make sure that it's not sort of this loophole that people they can just say, hey, we didn't mean to. So we're working with them. And, if you look at the letter of support, there's actually a lot of cosmetic companies that have signed on in support of the bill. As you heard, even the opposition, they kind of know we have to do this. They know there's still a problem. So we are committed to continuing working with them. And the fact that I did reach out to them before we even introduced it to say, we're thinking of doing this. What are your thoughts? And we've been working very closely with them. And I want to thank them because they've been really good partners. And we'll continue to, we want to make sure that this is doable for them. And we're not out to do a gotcha. We just want to push them. We want to push all of the manufacturers to really clean up their act, because none of us, we all want to feel good in California that if we buy something on the shelf here, that we know that we're not hurting ourselves or hurting the water supply. So we'll continue to work with them.
Awesome. And then can you address the analysis actually talked a lot about the HFO, which I'd never heard of before reading the analysis, I'll be honest. But are we addressing that? Because as far as I read the analysis, it doesn't seem like there's any evidence that that's posing the same concern that PFAS is.
So we feel that even though in the refrigerant industry, these are safe products, but there's also evidence that when they're used in personal care products and they come in contact with water, they turn into another material, which is called TFA, which does have negative health impacts. So we're saying, fine, use it in your refrigeration products, but let's not put it into products that we're spraying on our bodies that end up mixed in water, because those health impacts, it's not so clear that that's so benign. So we'll continue to have that conversation. But we want to make sure that they're safe, because there are known alternatives right now that are used that are safe, which is compressed air and nitrogen. And also the HFOs are not widely used in cosmetics at this point. So, it's not something that's going to disrupt what's happening in cosmetics. We just don't want them to be used until we know that they're really safe, in personal care products.
Are they already being used? I don't know. It sounds like they're being used in aerosols, right? No, they're not. Okay.
Sure, if I could. HFOs are just now being, the plan is to introduce them as an aerosol. And according to, EWG has its large skin deep database, and we have about 70,000 products that we have ingredients for. And we did a poll of that and found that only 2 of those products contained HFOs.
Okay.
And so it's our understanding from talking with the manufacturers that this is something that they are poised to bring into the market, and so we would just hope that they would maybe pivot, away, because it does actually break down into another type of PFAS, which is a TFA. That is a persistent chemical in the environment that we're concerned will continue to accelerate.
Got it. As a child of the 80s who loved my hairspray and remembers when we all had to get rid of our aerosol hairsprays because of the impact on the environment. And I know that Assemblymember Friedman is always looking out for climate change in the environment, just making sure that it isn't sort of a more beneficial use, and we're weighing all of the things that are happening here, be it the TFAs versus the impact that these products have on the larger global environment. And then the last question was the question about the sell-through date and the implementation date. Any thoughts on that, and whether or not there will be time for these industries to get rid of what's already on the shelves or in the market?
We'll continue to have the conversation with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something that we'll continue to work with industry.
Okay. I hope you're open to that, because I know my bill, which is up next, has a similar issue on a different product, but I know it's important for industry that they not have to deal with a huge hazardous waste problem when we outlaw something. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan. I did see the opposition flinch out there, but I'm going to go to Assemblymember Marisucci for response.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Assemblymember Friedman for trying to finish what I consider unfinished business for my bill from 2020. You know, the same science applies to the class of PFAS that you're seeking to ban as the chemicals for my 2020 bill. The same cancer-causing, reproductive health harming, developmental disability-causing propensities of these chemicals. I just want to make it clear for this committee that you know, the only reason why we didn't include these in our earlier bill was because our original version of our bill died in the Assembly Health Committee, and so it was more out of because of the politics rather than the policy. But I am fully in support of this bill.
You're a joint author, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the opposition want to say anything? I've seen some movement back there.
Are we calling witnesses back up?
Yes. She has to be called back up, so yes. Go ahead.
I just, EWG answered it, but yes, we are moving into HEFOs for manufacturing of some aerosol products, and as Assemblyman Friedman did mention, compressed gas is an option in some products. It's not in all. I will note that without this HFO, which is replacing the HFCs due to a 2-year, maybe 3-year regulatory process we conducted at CARB, without it, manufacturers may have to move to butane, which is flammable, but would not be caught up by this bill. So again, just in weighing those alternatives, it's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a motion and a second, and then the motion is to pass to the Health Committee, and please call the roll. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
Please
that's okay.
offer to close.
Just that we are going to continue to talk to industry, and you know, again, we want to make sure this is workable for everybody. And I appreciate their counsel and their partnership so far on the bill. And I would ask for an aye vote so that we can continue that conversation. Thank you.
And I don't get in this position too often, so excuse me. Please call the roll.
I always forget to close as well, so we're in the same boat.
Sure, and Chair Quirk, as you walked in, asked to mention that he is recommending an aye vote. Item number 4, AB 2771, Friedman. The motion is do pass and re-referred to the Committee on Health. Quirk? Aye. Quirk, aye. Smith?
No at this time, but I look forward to the conversation.
Smith, no. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Barakahan? Aye. Barakahan, aye. Christina Garcia? Aye. Christina Garcia, aye. Holden? Mathis? Marisucci? Aye. Marisucci, aye. Waldron?
Thank you all.
Okay. So our last bill of the day.
I thought it was next.
Thank you very much for bringing forward AB 2146. Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, neonicotinoids